Even though we never were short of food, but still the farm was just getting by for a long time, and he wasn't going to borrow. When I was still in seminary, I had a couple occurrences of vertigo, and I had a couple occurrences of sharp chest pains. I saw lights, a visual aura. In fact, it was out at the farm, and I thought I had fireflies. It was in the summertime. I thought I had fireflies even caught in my hair or something at first. And then I did see, oh yeah, it's really lights. But can you imagine the mess? And the doctor said, well, have you recently fallen or hit your head? And I thought, oh, this is a strange question. And he said, because there seems to be a relatively new lesion in the brain. So my EEG showed that I was having seizure activity in the same part of the brain, the front side close to my language lobe, which was quite similar to where the lesions were. I know I have Alzheimer's, or there's many definitions of that, but I have a probable diagnosis of Alzheimer's, and I just accept that I have that, a particular strain of it.
Alzheimer's disease is progressive and fatal. More than 5 million Americans suffer from Alzheimer's, but as baby boomers enter their 60s, some estimate that as many as 10 million of them will develop the disease. One estimate puts the number of Americans living with Alzheimer's as high as 16 million by the year 2050. While these numbers have tremendous implications on healthcare systems, there is a small yet growing movement of people that believe Alzheimer's is not a death sentence. Two of the pioneers of this movement, Mary Kay Baum and her sister Chris Van Ryzen.
Replacing aloneness with hope, fear with knowledge, disease with life. People have not heard persons with Alzheimer's talk. It's been it's been hidden away. People don't even look forward to wanting to talk to somebody with Alzheimer's, or they assume it will be a great task.
Being part of a movement is a way of life for Mary Kay Baum. As a student at the University of Wisconsin, she protested the war in Vietnam. As a law student, she monitored a standoff between a group called the Menominee Warrior Society and the state of Wisconsin. She became the youngest woman on her county's board of supervisors, won a seat on the school board, and became the first woman to run for mayor of Madison. As a single mother, she traveled to the war town Arcata, El Salvador, where her presence protected this village from government-sponsored death squads. She ran the Madison Urban Ministry, where she helped develop programs for recently released prisoners to guide them on their return to society.
I would call myself an activist. I feel very comfortable with that word, and I still feel like an activist now.
Now at age 57, her advocacy suddenly became immediate and personal. She, her sister Chris, and a small group would now advocate for people with early onset Alzheimer's.
They asked, has anyone with early onset ever improved? And I stood up and I talked about you.
Chris and Mary Kay's mother died of Alzheimer's in 1995. Chris started experiencing symptoms of Alzheimer's in her early 40s, but it would take almost 10 years and a battery of doctors to confirm the diagnoses. And it would take a daily struggle of one woman determined to take control of her life.
All I wanted to be was real. I didn't care what the diagnosis was going to be at that point. I just wanted to be real. I wanted to be believed. Because not being believed, if the doctors don't believe in me, then how can they treat me? No. I have to be believed.
And that just wasn't a 3-week period. This went on for
10 years.
10 years.
I don't know what you're going to have to eat, but I am hungry.
Mary Kay first experienced symptoms of early onset Alzheimer's about 6 years ago.
I could tell when you're stressed. I mean, you get into these periods of time where you'd just be grasping for words, and that was a sure sign of your stress.
She began to notice subtle changes in her ability to find words. She would often lose her train of thought in important meetings. Her family noticed changes as well.
You can go back several years, 2, 3 years before then, and she would fall.
I always just thought, she was always trying to do so many things at once, always rushing. She would just, be carrying something and rushing over to say something to someone, and, she'd trip over the change from sidewalk to grass. I just figure, well, you should, just try and not do so many things at once, slow down, and you should be fine, But, of course, there was more to it.
Because if we wait until Chris's situation where she had such severe cognitive changes.
Yet despite the diagnoses, the Baum sisters refuse to accept what many healthcare professionals believe.
There are physicians, ones who just will tell people, well, you have Alzheimer's, there's nothing that can be done, and they don't do regular monitoring, and it is like putting the person aside to sit in a chair or to be, certainly sidelined from life. I take 2 forms of sleeping aid, both natural. Pentoxifili is one of the more unusual drugs. Most physicians and pharmacists aren't familiar with it.
Mary Kay takes a daily cachet of drugs and supplements.
These are hormone replacement therapy medications. Keppra is anything I can do to reduce my risk of developing the full symptoms of Alzheimer's. And I think there is a lot we can do to reduce the symptoms. Prenatal vitamins. I always get a smile from the pharmacist. I feel so privileged to be that guinea pig.
She uses a patch doctors prescribe for Parkinson's disease and depression in the United States that doctors in Europe prescribe for Alzheimer's as well. Before the patch, she fell frequently. Since the patch, her balance is fine. She uses lotions, herbs, and essential oils. She gets a cranial massage once a month.
The main point is for people with early onset especially to speak and tell our stories.
Right.
And they advocate at conferences, to members of Congress, to small groups, to researchers, to doctors. They advocate for people with early onset Alzheimer's, for their families, for their children, for hope.
There's this common feeling out there, especially if you have a parent or a close relative who has had what has been called Alzheimer's, that there's nothing you can do about it, you might as well not think about it, and that there'll be nothing you can do. Well, that is just not the case. Things have changed immensely.
The Hope of Alzheimer's is a multimedia production from Triangle Media Works. The documentary follows Mary Kay Baum for 3 years as she journeys through the most important maze of her life.
More and more people are realizing that one, there's a lot more of us who have early Alzheimer's than are even diagnosed, and that the sooner we get help, the better, and that we have to push for the right kind of help. Not all doctors will monitor the physical effects, for instance, and take care of those. All the Parkinsonian symptoms that I was suffering from, the lack of balance and so forth, had a huge impact on my life. And taking care of that has meant I can be here again. I can be in the country, I can be at Rock Ridge and enjoy I think that's one of my most important roles, is letting people know that.
The Hope of Alzheimer's, an advocate's journey, is a rare opportunity to make a difference in an issue that could become the greatest healthcare challenge of our lives.
To get into
I think part of my healing, part of my health journey is this kind of sharing. So it's, in that way, it's easy. In another way, I'll be tired afterwards, but it's a good tiredness.